If the
corrupt.
police actually think you're a murderer and can't prove it, and so they plant cocaine on you, is that corrupt?
Let me think about it.
There is almost no more
So,
serious threat to our democracy than the FBI intentionally putting their finger on the scale to benefit one side over the other. That's what happened.
shouldn't they have done that therefore years ago when they did it for other parties back in the good old
Name it.
days?
Like,
J. Edgar
Hoover?
Hoover.
Yes. Yes, they should
Yeah,
have.
but don't you think in the history of the United States, the FBI has probably done more good than harm?
No, not even close.
What about all the crime they stop?
What about all
What
the
about all
crime they
the
helped facilitate? How about try covering up for Jeffrey Epstein?
Okay.
No, I don't. I
It's too
think
late.
that
It's
this,
too,
this is the same
I
argument
have
here
to
with
end this.
USAID. Well, they do some good, so we have to allow the corruption to occur. No. They could
The
easily.
country would be made. The country would be way worse off if we didn't have all this law enforcement. Now you can say they have to be reinstituted in another body or whatever.
Sure.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Yes.
But what you're saying is basically that the rank and file largely should stay, and that they should be enforcing things, and all you want to do is do a little makeover. Okay, that's one thing. But
Do you think that a racist police department in the Jim Crow South did more good than bad? If I could point to, well, they stopped this murder.
yeah,
And they
yes,
solved
yes,
this
yes,
rape.
so I'm not sure. I think having any police at all is probably better, even given the racial situation. I think you'd probably agree with that, especially if it's a racist society and there's no police at all. It would seem to me like it would be worse to not have the police. I think you'd agree with that, right?
But what I would say is, well, I don't know.
Would you
It
agree with that?
depends on who you are, I guess, right?
Yeah, well,
Right?
I think that's true. So I think that if you have a racist police force, I don't think the answer is get rid of the police force, but maybe the answer is reconstitute it in a
Isn't
different
that
thing
what
so
they
it doesn't
did?
have the
Like, I
same.
don't think it was racism, but wasn't there that one force in Jersey that they could disbanded the entire
Maybe.
police force and then
Yeah,
start?
yeah. Listen, I'm not even saying uh, that it would be such an absurd thing all the time to have these kind of cultural shifts or whatever. Maybe that's what you're advocating for, as opposed to just disbanding the FBI. When you say disbanding the FBI, it sounds like abolish the police. That's what it sounds like to me.
No, I
And so,
wouldn't
but
do
if you're,
that. I would fold
okay.
the low-level agents into like the U.S. Marshals, state police, state agencies, etc. I'd probably then take a process to make sure that we had some sort of legislative body that was able to fucking put pen to paper and come up with something to ensure this level of corruption didn't occur again and there was more
Okay.
transparency.
So
Then I would create a
last
new
question then.
body. And would ensure the people that were involved in. But the problem is, like, you could say, will you at least agree with this? There are millions of people that agree with me about corruption at the FBI.
Yes.
Do you agree? Do you think that's a bad thing?
Yes, I think that they've been lied
Okay. Do you think that the FBI brought a lot of that on themselves?
to. Some of it, but
What do
not
you mean,
most of it.
Not most of it's what, 20%?
I couldn't put a number on it as I sit here.
Okay.
I'll have to think
So
about
don't you think that all the people in leadership got to go?
it. Which right now or
Yeah.
as existed in Comey's
Like
time?
now. The
No, I think that because there are other considerations for why I answer that right now. I think that the people that are primarily responsible for the lack of faith in the FBI and the Department of Justice, frankly, are malicious actors who lie about what they did and who spread false information and who spread false narratives like you do, in my opinion.
no, see, that's the entire point. You could say that that makes me malicious. It's not. I'm absolutely right about it because you'll say that it's malicious of me to say that it's more likely that a
Oh,
guy
oh,
that's
sorry.
putting
I'm not-
hashtag resist. Let me finish.
I
That a
consider-
guy that's putting hashtag resist, it's more likely he literally changed evidence to the opposite of the truth because of that, as opposed to quote expediency. And you say that makes me malicious spreading
No,
rumors.
no, no. So I would say I'm not sure that I would say you're malicious. I think you're a true believer. So I don't think that's malicious. But I think there are people who are malicious about
Like
the FBI who deliberately
Give me someone
lie
that
about
knows
what
that
they-
Kevin Kleinsmith really was just
Yeah.
doing it for expediting,
Yeah,
but lying and saying it was
for
corruption.
example, some of the people that you are also John Solomon, I think is one. I think Miranda,
Absolute horseshit.
yeah,
You
Miranda,
think John
whatever,
Solomon's like, yeah,
Divine.
Kevin Kleinsmith actually, he didn't do
Well,
this
no,
for
no,
personal or
no. I
political
think
reasons.
I think John Solomon is a liar. I do
About?
think he's a liar about the FBI's role, the DOJ with respect to Burisma, false narratives regarding that, the false narratives regarding the Trump investigations, criminal investigations. I think Miranda Devine, I think Julia, whatever her last name is, I think John Solomon. These are very malicious liars, and I
I
think,
think
they're
you're
bad
full
people.
of shit. I think
What?
the people like
because-
you think they're liars, but you also think that this dude did this, broke the law, and jeopardized his career to expedite something.
Yeah, I think
as
it's a
opposed-
much it's I think it's a much easier case to show that these people are liars than it is to show that guy was politically motivated
It's
to
absurd.
go after Carter Page, a minor guy who,
Yes.
and he did it because he hated Trump.
No,
I
yes,
just don't think
they
that's true.
went after someone because they wanted to smear Trump as being connected to Russia. They wanted an
Okay.
excuse to get a FISA
You-
warrant so they could even be able to get Trump's
They already had
communications.
FISA warrants, Trump. Trump, I called you Trump. They already had this. Too late, but they already had FISA warrants. This is a
So,
fourth fucking.
so wait, is
renewal.
your argument that they didn't need to get the fourth FISA warrant because they already had everything?
I'm saying to the extent that you think that they're motivated in that moment, he's motivated in that moment to have a FISA warrant or not have a FISA warrant. It sounds like what you're saying is he's motivated by the marginal effect of the propaganda by the fourth as opposed to the three others. And
Yes,
that
I'm saying
seems
that
like-
they were desperately
okay.
trying to get something to smear Trump and his team with. And they were afraid, or he was afraid, that this evidence would be exonerating and the FISA court might say no this time.
How do you know he didn't actually think that he was going after something negative or that Trump actually committed crimes? If you assume that he was thinking about Trump, what is your? How do you know that he wasn't actually thinking that Trump did something criminal?
It would be irrelevant in this case. That means he did it for personal reasons.
If he thought that he was actually going after crime, and so that's why he did what he was doing, and that this was the best way for him to actually go after crime, you would say that that's still
If the
corrupt?
police actually think you're a murderer and can't prove it, and so they plant cocaine on you, is that corrupt?
Let me think about it.
I don't think that should take that long to think about.
I think the answer is no. But I just want to be consistent on my definition of corrupt. I don't think it's coextensive just with illegal. Planting evidence, right? I think in sort of involves a lie, involves deceit, and I think deceit as a means is also. I think we should extend the definition of corruption to include certain types of deceits as means, or I have to think about it a little bit to nail it down. Or refer back to my article where I defined it. So I'll get back to you. But I do
mean,
think
that's
my
brutal.
intuition
You
is
understand that?
Wait,
I'm clipping that shit.
Wait a second. So my intuition is that planting evidence for someone that you think is already guilty, my intuition is that is corrupt. I'm trying to make sense of the definition I gave to you, that if it's for a personal or political motive, that's how we have been using corrupt. I think it's fair for me to try to reconcile those two, that intuition and the definition we've used.
Okay,
Do you think that's fair? Wait, Rob, I just want to ask,
No.
It's not fair? So
It
then
might
what's your
be
definition
fair.
of corrupt?
It might be. I think
So
what
what's
would be
your
fair.
definition of corrupt?
I think that it would be fair.
What's
at
your
that
definition
point-
of corrupt?
Let me finish. I think it would be fair at that point to say clearly that's corrupt, and if my definition doesn't encompass it, then it would be incorrect.
Well, yeah. So I think that, yes, I think that would be corrupt, and my definition needs to be elastic enough to include that. That's all I'm doing. And I think that you should also.
Let's apply this a little further.
Wait, I'm being completely honest in real time, Rob. I'm trying to be completely responsive to everything that's being said, and yes, I think that the definition should include that specific instance, and so that's why I'm thinking about it a little bit more. So my question for you would be, what is your definition of corruption that would include that?
What did I say originally? An act
I
of,
see,
like
that's
an
what-
unethical or illegal act that's taken to benefit yourself or your side, etc.
Yeah, but if they actually think that it's a crime, that was your whole thing for Trump, right? If he actually believed
The
that
standard,
the election was stolen.
different. The standard's
for
different
president.
the standard's different with law enforcement, as we already talked about.
Well, sorry, the president is the chief law enforcement officer of the United States.
It's different. It's different because
Why?
it's different because the idea of altering and planting evidence from someone who's a career lawyer or career involved in law enforcement.
You're just
is
getting in the
different.
weeds and the specifics of everything. I'm asking
It
you, why
has
is it
nothing.
different?
I'm telling you why it's different because the understanding of the law and knowing the implications that you can't do this, it's unethical to change this, makes it corrupt if you do that. Versus someone who's a neophyte or novice when it comes to the law, that's not involved, that isn't tasked with personally investigating, having access to evidence, etc. Just saying, yeah, I want someone investigated because I think they're corrupt is different.
I don't know about that, bro. Especially, so you're saying that the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, the president of the United States, you think that he does not have an obligation to apprise himself of the lawfulness of his own actions and whether or not what he's doing is legal.
If Trump says, let me ask you right now, if Trump says, I want Kamala investigated, is that illegal?
No, it's not illegal.
Okay, so then what are you talking about?
Well, wait. It depends. If all he says, just the start of investigation by itself is not illegal. That's what I should say.
Trump's
But it depends on what he's
Trump's
doing.
tweets that he had that you said Josiah pointed out, were those tweets illegal? Were
Which
those
ones?
interview
About
with
calling-
Fox about he needs to appoint
Illegal
someone to investigate
tweets.
Biden.
Um, I don't think that they violate I think it's an abuse of power.
But it's not illegal. So you could. So
Uh,
even
wait,
you
wait, wait,
admit.
wait, 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 hang on a second. Give me a second. Is that okay?
Sure.
It's fucking 4 o'clock. I think that calling for what I take to be and what I accept as a political prosecution, because I think that you would say the same in similar circumstances with Joe Biden. If he called publicly for an investigation into Trump, I think you would agree that's corrupt, right?
No, I said if he
Or
truly
sorry,
believes that
abuse of power.
maybe abuse of power, but I don't know that corrupt. I'm not even
Okay,
sure
so
abuse of power. I'd have to think about that with the implications. That's a brand new term that's been brought up.
so like if that's the case, right? There are a lot of people who are yelling and howling about interference from political branches into the investigations. Interference with respect to the Alvin Bragg investigation, and different personnel coming from different areas and affecting that investigation and other investigations. And the allegation has always been that this is improper political interference. But it sounds like all you need to do to cure yourself from that allegation is a well-founded statement to the effect that we actually think he's guilty, and then you're going to cure yourself of
Well, no,
whatever
because
allegation of political.
well, there's obviously a legal standard. What is legality, right? But as far as
Yeah.
what individuals would think, like if Barack Obama sincerely believed that Trump was an agent of Vladimir Putin, right, and he received some information that he believed that, and he went to Eric Holder or Loretta Lynch and was like, "You need to look into this." Is that corrupt?
For him to do that, if he legitimately thought
Right.
that there was something. Yeah, so I think that what's corrupt is defined by the purpose and the motive. And so if the president is motivated by an actual good faith belief in someone's guilt or innocence, now there is a norm to stay out of individual prosecutions by presidents. And to some
Biden
extent, I would
violated
say
that, right? Right, where he
What's that?
said, I said we see that being violated, right? Where the presidents will say this person's innocent or this person's guilty. Biden did that.
Are you referencing Rittenhouse?
No, didn't he do it with Hunter?
No. When?
I'll have to look up. I'm pretty sure Biden's
Okay.
commented on
Yeah.
the guilt or innocence of people before the investigations were done.
Could be. But I don't know
It's
if
not
that's
that big of a deal, though.
Wait,
I didn't fucking gnash my teeth
that's not
about it.
interference. That's not interference in the or deciding the line,
Well,
the individual prosecution decisions.
True,
That's
true.
different.
But you're saying that there's a norm to stay out of it. It's like, well, no.
There's a norm for the president not to be involved in specific charging decisions.
What about when? Okay,
been a
did
norm.
you find it corrupt when we find out that when it came to the Michael Flynn stuff, that we have these memos that they're specifically talking to Joe Biden, Barack Obama? Biden suggests possibly using the Logan Act. Was that corrupt?
No, I don't think that that's necessarily
Why?
correct.
It's not the norm for president, vice president to be involved
Wait,
in
so-
potential charging decisions.
So that's not so that's a counter. There was a counterintelligence investigation that was suggested. I don't
Okay.
know that that's the same thing. And I think that the president, vice president, with respect to counterintelligence and espionage, have a key role to make in those kinds of decisions in a
I don't
way
think
that I
that
don't
that's
think
a
is
distinction
necessarily
of that.
true of federal enforcement of federal crime. Or I don't know. Do you think that the president should be in charge and should be directing, individual charging decisions of individual people? For example, the Mayor Adams. Yeah. So I think.
But that's different. But there's different levels. Like, it seems like you're taking umbrage with a lot of what I say. Like when I said about the Obama thing, and you're like, well, I guess it depends on his personal motivation. Right. That's what I'm saying. If they heartfelt think that they're corrupt, this is all off in the weeds and a vastly different thing than altering evidence from career law enforcement officers. It's completely different. I'm just humoring your difference here. I want to go back to this idea of planning
We're
coke.
trying to. Well, hang on a second. I have 2 more minutes and I have to go. It's way too fucking late. But I just want to be clear. We're talking about the definition of corruption and what is corrupt. And you said planting evidence. I think I heard you say for personal reasons or for political reasons that would make it corrupt. But the question was asked if a cop plants evidence or someone he legitimately thinks did the crime, would that be corrupt?
Yes.
And The answer is yes, but you have to find a way to reconcile it in a definition, and you're not prepared at the moment to fully expound on
It
it.
doesn't
Fair?
matter. I knew immediately it was corrupt, and it took you time to think
But
about
I
it. But it
no,
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So
whoa.
let's make it more specific then, more apples to apples to what you're saying isn't corrupt, which is the Kevin Kleinsmith situation, right? What if instead of planting the coke, they saw the coke on the ground, but it wasn't in the vehicle with the guy, and they firmly believed it was that guy's coke, so they put it in. Now they didn't. They really believe, like, well, that coke was in there, and they put it in. Is that corrupt?
Wait. Put it in where?
The car with the guy, so that another cop
Okay.
could see it and go, "Oh shit, he had coke on him."
So they moved coke.
It's not. I
that
think
what's
you committed a different crime. Therefore, I'll plant coke on you. It's this coke that's laying 10 feet over here. I think is his, but I know we won't be able to prove it. So I'll drop it
Unless
in the
we
car
move it.
beside him, and then another officer will find it, and they'll be able to charge him.
I don't know that I would make a distinction on the previous answer if you're altering. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, if you're
Yes,
moving
that's easily corrupt.
but hang on, how does that fit into our definitions?
Well, I already said that I'd need to make more expansive for the definition.
Well, I'm trying to come up with a definition. I mean, I would call cops generally altering evidence that would have a material impact on guilt or innocence. I think that I would call that corrupt.
Right. That's exactly what Kevin Kleinsmith did.
But I don't know that the determination as to whether or not he was another government officer plays into like the substantive guilt or innocence of an individual. I think that plays into.
There is no distinction to why that should apply to cops but not attorneys.
No. I'm trying to distinguish in my head. I'm literally thinking out loud, as between substantive evidence of guilt that could, for example, prove the crime beyond a reasonable doubt, as opposed to, in this context, what is essentially it is a counterintelligence determination. It is a FISA warrant is not a criminal warrant, and I don't know that I would apply the same thing to those determinations. But
I don't think that there would be a
Let me
reason
think
of
about it.
distinction for that. Why, if you're getting a warrant based on counterintelligence, that somehow would be different than
Then
getting a warrant based on criminality?
Then we need a way to distinguish everything that's happening at the top level and the top brass, which you seem to want to insulate from those.
Well, that's
for
a
example,
different
when
question, and we
obviously
could talk.
illegal things happen.
We could talk some
Obviously
other night
illegal
about
things
that.
happen that you're not going to call corrupt, even
But
though
listen,
it's.
listen. We've already shown distinctions. There's significant distinctions. Oftentimes, it's difficult to put an exact bright line, but you could see when something is so obviously corrupt, like planting the coke on someone, versus Barack Obama
Or
that
fake
thinks Trump's guilty.
electors.
What's that?
Or how about this? How about trying to have a fake elector scheme where you're purporting something to be something that it's not?
Again, that doesn't. That's nowhere. No matter what you think about that, that's nowhere near the bright line of a cop planting coke on someone.
Okay,
Nowhere near it.
Maybe I actually think in terms of its effect on society, it's worse. It's
Well, you
balanced
could
stuff.
say that. Like, there's all kinds of things that's worse than a cop planting coke.
No, but it's
that doesn't
it's
diminish
ballot stuff. If someone put in a bunch of fake ballots into a ballot box, would you call that corrupt to
Yes.
to affect the? Okay, so if someone put a bunch of fake elector votes in the for the real election, which is the presidential electors, would you also call that corrupt?
No, because one,
Why?
because there's difference. The fake ballots would have a chance of not being caught, and people wouldn't know if they're fake or not, and so they could materially affect in that way. Whereas the electors, Mike Pence, that would have decided, knew which electors would have been, quote, the fake ones or not. Second, this was to propose a legal challenge. That's different than planting coke. The equivalent would be if Trump literally forced Governor Kemp to make up evidence.